Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Troy Grisa and me in front of Mount St. Helens that blew up a little bit a few years ago. Yeah, if we were here 40 years ago or 2 years ago, right here we'd be dead. Luckily we were not born yet.
Luckily.
Yeah. And so Troy is known to be the suicidal juggler who likes to do the cascade and all the different dangerous places where you should not do any cascade. And also he's got like these crazy 10 3-point swaps that are quite accessible for people that are in 3-point juggling, I think, and with your good teaching methods even more accessible. So Troy is going to share something about the cascade if you're getting into the cascade and those 10 swaps. Am I saying it right?
Correct. Thank you very much, Wojta. Let's begin. It is up in the air, pun intended, whether or not you need to actually know the cascade to perform these tricks. Whether it's in wall plane, as I just showed, or in wheel plane, that's up to you. I recommend learning it, but you do not have to learn these tricks. So, as with any 3-poi tricks, we're going to put down one of them and make sure you know the prerequisites first. The first thing you need to know is going to be understanding a couple different grips. The first grip is standard grip, where one comes out between the thumb and pointer, and the other comes out on the pinky side. And what this grip allows is comfort in all sorts of different modes, decent control, without knocking off your lav mic, decent control, and the ability to toss. But as soon as you're comfortable with that grip, you should add more grips, okay? A lot of people are resistant to this at first, but I commend you if you open your mind to new grips. The next grip is, instead of going between thumb and pointer, hold it between pointer and middle, and instead of gripping it with your pinky and having it come out the pinky side, you're gonna slap it across your hand, grip it with your thumb, okay? And still have it come out the pinky side. And the benefit of this grip is, of course, all the same freedoms of the standard grip, but now you'll notice my hand is able to stay open. My bottom 3 fingers are actually available to stay open for things like spiral wraps, and your hand will fatigue less. It also makes tosses a little bit easier to release from those middle 2 fingers. It's easier to release from there, than it is to release from here, okay? I would explain why, but it's more of just a feeling thing. So I encourage you to learn those 2 grips, in addition to this third grip, which is going to really come in handy for my tutorial series here. It is called dangle grip. It's kind of a disgusting grip because it has one coming out of the thumb and pointer, and the other comes out between pointer and middle. So you're only using 3 fingers, 3 digits, to hold 2 poi. The benefit of the dangle grip is that you can do this swap, right, as a proof of concept, and you do have to gain some muscle memory so that you can swing the front one in front while dangling the other. Yes, with standard grip, you can have one dangle. Yes, with Goddard grip, you can do the same thing, right? Here's the proof of concept. But I find that this grip, it's kind of hard to get into, this grip is very helpful for 3-poi. So, now that you're familiar with the grips, let's start the swaps. The first swap is known as the bottomless box. And you're gonna, I'm using standard grip over here. You're gonna dangle 1 poi and place the head on top of that hand. You are then going to release the knob from up here, the one that's horizontal, release, and replace it with the head. Okay, that's the first one. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. You are going to simultaneously release this knob and this head, okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to replace this red knob with the red head, right, like so. And then you grab the other knob and put it right there. So, with less words, here it is repeating. Swap. To make it very clean, you want the one that is dangling to sway very little. You want to just catch it and make it dangle there. You can see why it's called the bottomless box, because you're forming a bottomless box. When you run it nice and smooth, it should look like this.
You can stand there, man. That's not a problem.
When you run it nice and smooth, it should look like this. One thing that helps to make them not collide with each other is you sort of rotate. I'll do it facing this way. You rotate this hand so that the tether's coming towards you and then the knob is way out there, right? Observe how I rotate. Makes it easier to do the swap. Now this pattern is not very aesthetic. It's a warm-up. I don't use it that much with fire. I barely even use it with LED, but it will help you wrap your head around the idea of a swap. So let's get started with the actual fun swaps, right? This first one is called the underhand swing through. Very similar to the switchback. In order for this to happen, you may notice that this poi is going to start in some type of grip. You're going to need to get it between pointer and middle so that the thumb is available to grab the other tether. Okay? This one will keep swinging and it gets out of the way. Then you go from, after you've grabbed it and it's hanging out of your thumb, you need to rotate your wrist and get that knob very quickly in between pointer and middle so that the thumb is available to receive. I'll do a nice close-up here so you can see the grip switch. See how I go from the thumb holding it to the pointer and middle holding it? I'll try to do it right up close so you can see. Yep, that's the underhand swing through. As soon as you receive a poi, you need to make it dangle. So a nice drill for this is I'm like, okay, my hand is going to receive a poi from the other side. Can I make it dangle really quickly without tangling, right? Lots of different drills to do this. Let's just start here. Now, if you don't like a lot of time in downstall and you don't enjoy all these pendulums, what happens if you do it in the forward butterfly? Now you've got a thread the needle swap, which I call the overhand swing through. The beauty of the overhand swing through is it's very powerful. It's kind of like you're chopping wood or something. And at any point, of course, you can use that momentum to go into your weave or what have you, a cap or something. So let's break it down. Separate the two poi by making a nice ledge with your pointer, and you're just gonna do a butterfly and bring them together. Remember, as soon as you receive a poi, you make it dangle. Dangle is when it is not moving. So for example, the red one's dangling. Now the orange one's dangling. Now the red one's dangling. Now the orange one's dangling. Okay, so you make a ledge. You're going to come forward in a butterfly. Remember, from the underhand swing through, you learned the thumb is what receives the tether. Receives. When you're first learning it, I recommend receiving and slowing it down until you can control and make that one dangle. Go out to the side. You're holding it between pointer and middle so that the thumb can receive. Thumb receives, thumb receives, thumb receives, thumb receives. Here it is up close. Hopefully you're able to follow that. Remember, the magic of this type of pattern is that it's going from here to here so that the thumb can receive the next knob. All right, so you're bored. This is too easy for you. You love three poi, you know all this. Well, this one's gonna stump you for probably a couple weeks, okay? Vertical stacking, swap number 4. Vertical stacking, oh gosh, this is gonna stump me. And I will mess up a few times and you'll make the same mistake. Instead of grabbing it by the knob and keeping everything centered sort of right in front of your eyes, what you're gonna do is drop down the whole pattern so that now the heads are in front of your eyes and you're just gonna reach across and grab the opposite poi head. And the stacking happens when this hand receives right there. And there's a moment when all three are aligned, when all three are aligned vertically. The lowest, gosh, yeah, you can sort of just force it. You just grab it, and you start spinning inward from up here. This lowest hand, you have to do this little motion where you go, just like the bottomless box, you sort of throw the head and grab the knob and bring it around up top. The real magic of this, where people get confused, is there is a grip switch on the way up, right? As you go from low to high, let's see if I can do it. As you go from low to high, right here, you want to grab it to begin with your pointer and middle so that your thumb is available to grab the head when they align vertically, okay? If you're not comfortable with the bottomless box, this is going to be very hard. Or in other words, if you're not comfortable holding a knob between your pointer and middle and the head with the rest of your fingers, this is going to be very hard. So warm up with this pattern and slowly bring it to a vertical place. As you receive, this is very detailed, but typically what happens when I receive, when I do this little toss on the bottom, I grab with my pointer and middle, my thumb and pointer, and on the way up, I have to switch it to pointer and middle so that my thumb is available. I will repeat that. If you are smart, you will build the muscle memory to immediately start by grabbing it between pointer and middle from here so that your thumb is automatically available. But it's hard, as you can see. So here I'm going to go ahead and run it for you a few times.
I give up.
It is a trick for 3-poi spinners. It is not for crowds, but people tend to enjoy it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a drill how to actually catch the poi in your hand when you seem not to be able to do it?
So since we're hiking, we have a ton of dust on our hands right now. It's going to want to bounce out. It's kind of like catching a baseball or a tennis ball or something. If you've played a lot of like catch sports, it'll come naturally. If you're just learning it, what I would recommend doing is probably going like this, of just one spin. I'm constantly doing like this trick where I'm just kind of practicing slapping it into that hand where it's just palm open. And then I'm doing something with it, right? So that would be a nice drill. Find things you can do from here, just instead of just drilling it. Some people don't like to drill. I do
have to drill in this case.
Yeah. And then slowly make it more and more vertical. So maybe you do it at a 45-degree angle. And remember, you're going to have to, sorry, I apologize if I get close to you. So you'll want to start in a butterfly and just have it in the right grip, pointer and middle, and just catch it and keep this top one going. And then you're going to switch. You're going to do it the other one. I guess the drill would be to go 1, 2, butterfly, 1, 2. It never really does a butterfly. And what happens is this pattern gets very sloppy after you do it like 10 times. I've seen a lot of people on the 3-poi challenge. They grabbed it just by the tether and just kind of supported it underneath there. And then you can just slide your hand on the tether. It, of course, is not as aesthetic. But when you're learning it, I recommend doing whatever is most comfortable for you. All right, that was pattern. We're on 4 out of 10s here, so we'll move a little more quickly. Pattern number 5 is known as a really easy one for you after all that work. Let's move into Superman's mess. The prerequisite being the 3-poi Superman. And all you're going to do is speed up that one on its way down towards the non-native side. And you're going to use your pinky to grab the poi that's simply bouncing off your butt. See how the red poi is just bouncing off my butt? Well, I can switch which hand is gripping it, and it just keeps bouncing off my butt. I'm just doing a 3-beat up top, and in order to make this happen, you have to speed up the orange poi, yellow poi, orange poi, yellow poi. I'm saying those colors because that's what's speeding up. If you just do a regular, like sort of lazy 3-beat weave, you'll never have enough speed to do the swap. This one is really useful if you wind up doing some trick where you're like, oh no, I like wound up and I'm not used to having 2-poi in my non-dominant hand, you can always go back to your 3-poi Superman and just do a quick swap to get back to where you need to be. That's what I usually use this swap for. If you're into more burlesque or cabaret and you are willing to hit fire off yourself, crowds love this one, especially if you rotate while you're doing it and give them a little like little booty show, you know. Crowds always love this one. Like when you finally turn around and look back at them, they love that. So if you throw the swap does not enhance the aesthetic of this, but you know. Quick challenge for you. Can you do a pirouette while doing a 3-poi Superman? Yes. All right.
On the edge of the cliff.
Okay, concept number 6 is going to be a switchback, which is a really fast version of, which is a very fast version of this, where it rotates all the way back around before you catch it. This is a switchback. Old school 3-poi jugglers and spinners call them Armin catches. Yes, switchbacks are very useful. In fact, you can come up with your own variations. So since you already have one, I'll show you the Troy Grisa Troy Grisa variation, which is you get your, you have a nice cascade going, and then you do your switchback. And while the switchback is happening, you buy yourself some time to put one of them behind your body. There is a guy out there, forgive me, I forgot your name, sir. He does them like behind his head or something, but I just do them behind here. I find it is actually easier than juggling. So if I need to reset, I do that trick. All right, swap number 7. Vojta and I have labbed these before, and I figured out how to add to that. This is the weave swap, which requires the lower poi to be in a pinky grip for beginners. You can eventually use another grip, but for my version of it, you're going to hold it pinky gripped like this, so that once again your thumb is available to receive the pinky poi of the 2-poi one hand. Okay? You have to get that back underneath, get the individual poi underneath, and get it to your pinky. So there's a lot of things happening while this whole pattern is moving quickly for you to receive it. I, at one point, could do it every beat. Nowadays, I just kind of do it when I'm ready. If you wouldn't mind stepping and showing, you can do it every beat. 3-poi spinners love it. It's useful. Oh, I don't know how you do that. That is incredible. I do have one where I swap every time. Let's quickly go over what that would look like in reverse. It's the same concept, where the pinky is open to the thumb. Oops! I'll be back. So, I'll catch my breath. Where we left off was the concept that you can still hold it in the pinky grip. Thumbs available. You can do it if you know how to do a 4-beat. You can swap every time on every side. Here that is facing you. It requires a polyrhythm. Again, that is a swap for 3-poi spinners to go wow. Crowds, if you're spinning fire, will really not notice this. So we're in nerdy territory here. But luckily, as we move from the weaves to the horizontal plane, this one kills with crowds. I love this swap, okay? Isolated corkscrew, which is this, is actually swap number 9. And what happens is, when it goes in front of you, you put 2 of them in the other hand. It uses pretty much every grip, and in fact, it even uses a grip that Vojta showed me, which is when you hold both of them between the same 2 fingers. And the only way this one works is if you kind of start with some momentum. So if you're not familiar, the 2-poi prerequisite is, I think you could still call it an isolated corkscrew. Notice how the orange one is isolated in front of me? Make it go around me. Now the yellow one's isolated in front of me. Now the orange one. Now the yellow. And you can get really, it's really easy to isolate it again. It doesn't take that much movement of the elbow to really isolate it. So combine that with what you've learned so far with swaps, and you can actually just reach in and grab it after it isolates. So you look for the poi that's isolating in front of you, and you're going to receive it with the thumb in order to keep the pattern going. Now, that's pretty boring to face the audience the whole time. So I like to get it started and really show the audience that you can isolate that head at any time. And they're gonna go, okay, that's cool. Once you start doing the swaps, you wanna be very matrixy with it. You know, see how I go that way when it's on that side of my body? With my one foot going up the cliff. You go over here, kind of act like you're dodging it. Let me get into the rhythm of it here, okay. Yeah, and at any point, if you throw a pirouette, it actually helps you regain control. Now this final swap is known as the reacher. You take the individual poi, reach across your body, while this one is spinning in the forward butterfly. You release a no beat and catch it with the thumb. Yes, it requires the individual poi to be between the pointer and middle, so that you can receive it with the thumb. You're learning. So, a lot of pendulums, a lot of dangling. As usual, since it's just a very simple pendulum and no beat pattern, you can use the reacher to get into a lot of other patterns. You know, you can always just go into a weave with it. It's very nice. So there you have it, folks. Those are 10 swaps for you, 3 poi spinners. I'm going to recap them for you now. I'll attempt to do it all at once. Swap 1, bottomless box. Swap 2, the underhand swing through. Swap 3, overhand swing through. Swap 4, vertical stacking. Swap 5, Superman's mess. Swap 6, switchbacks, which Vojta has taught you already. Swap 7, weave swaps. In forwards. Whoops. In forwards. He is better at this, so. And in reverse, which is my more comfortable variation when I don't throw it off a cliff. Number 8. Yep, this is number 8. Whoops. Let's make sure we can get that clean for you. Swap number 9 is known as the isolated corkscrew. And swap number 10 is known as the reacher. Huge shout out to Andrew Hersey at Hersmunch. He has so many variations of this pattern right here. It'll blow your mind. He has entire tech vlogs dedicated simply to this framework, and he makes it look really, really easy. He doesn't break it down into tutorials like I do, but if you need more variations of that. So feel free to check out my page at Troy Grisa. The entire series is here on Vojta's page. I also have an iteration of it on Flow on Fire's YouTube channel. On my Instagram, I have slow motion, repeating patterns, and point of view where the camera's on my head and you can see what my hands look like. to go deeper into these. But you should have everything you need to start an incredible 3-poi journey. We'll see you in 3 years when you can do all 10 swaps. Thank you for joining us for the 3-poi swaps tutorial.
Yeah.
Hey.
Nice, man.